Hello and welcome to pre-season testing ahead of the 2027 Formula 1 season, with all the new regulations finally being on show, but who has got them right and who has got them wrong? Red Bull come into 2025 as the reigning Constructors' champion after a close battle with Aston Martin last season. Max this year goes for a record equalling 7th world title to join Michael Schumacher and Lewis Hamilton. There was rumours that Max would have a new teammate for this season, as it was rumoured that Brown had signed for Red Bull, but this turned out not to be true, and with no other options on the table, they have decided to give Perez a 1-year extension. Red Bull started testing strong, finishing day one on top, but seemed to slow over the next 2 days, focusing on long run pace and possibly hiding their true performance. Big news from Aston Martin was that Brown had left the team through the winter after frustrations with the reliability of the car. It was thought that Stroll would return to Aston Martin, but they have decided to sign Sainz from Mercedes. This season will be Adrian Newey's first car that he's designed, and he looked to have worked his magic as they look very quick, topping the times on the final 2 days of testing. Last season they just missed out on the Constructors, but this year it looks like they may be able to go one better. McLaren seemed to go under the radar in 2026, but they picked up multiple podiums and wins. They still look to be towards the front, but they may have to develop early if they want to win the Constructors. Ferrari struggled once again in 2026, not having the car early on in the season, but did catch those in front when it was too late, with Leclerc winning 3 of the last 4 races of the season, which helped him to finish P2 in the Drivers' Championship, 109 points ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton, who finished the season in P10. The questions around Hamilton and if it's time for him to retire continue to circulate. This year's car looks to be in the midfield, as they look to have been outdeveloped over the winter. It looks once again to be a slow start to the season for them, or are they hiding their true pace? The big news for Mercedes is that Brown finally gets his chance to drive for the Silver Arrows after being part of the Mercedes Academy, coming up through the ranks after Sainz was out of contract at the end of last season. Though there was talks with Red Bull and no pre-contract to drive for the team, however, Toto Wolff reportedly found out about these talks, so Mercedes triggered an exit clause in Brown's Aston Martin contract that stated if he finished the Drivers' Championship in P5 or better, they must offer the Brit a Mercedes contract. And with the talk with Red Bull, Toto knew he had to put Brown in his car, otherwise he would miss out. This year they look to be behind the leading 3 and look more in a battle with Ferrari. Is there more pace in the car, or are they showing their true pace? We will have to wait and see. Williams started the season strong in 2026, but were massively outdeveloped come the end of the season. Their strongest result was a 2-3 in Monza. This season they look to have made a step towards the top 3 battle and possibly jumped both Mercedes and Ferrari. There was talk of Ricciardo leaving after just 1 season at the team, finishing 91 points off teammate Albon, but James Vowles insisted Ricciardo is the right man for the job. Alpine struggled with so much reliability last season, as every weekend they seemed to pop an engine, but with the new season's engine regulations, they're hoping they have found the reliability they've been looking for, but this seems to be impacting the development of the car, as they look well in the midfield fight for 2027, a long way off those in front. It's going to be a long season of development for them this year. RB had a tough 2026, only finding pace in the late stages of the season with a few points scored, the best coming with a P4 at the American Grand Prix. All 16 points they scored in 2026 came from Tsunoda, with Stroll being well off the pace. If it wasn't for money, many believe Stroll would have lost his seat for this year. Can they find more consistency in the car this year? We'll have to wait and see. Sauber come into 2027 with a new driver lineup after Bottas decided to retire at the end of 2026, so young Ferrari junior Oliver Behrman finally gets his chance in Formula 1 after a season racing in Formula E after winning the F2 Championship in 2025. However, he comes into a struggling Sauber team who were well off the pace in 2026, struggling to catch the midfield fight. Only managed to score 1 point all season long, coming at a chaotic Italian Grand Prix. It looks once again to be a long season for them. Towards the end of last season, there was rumours of Logan Sargent being dropped by Haas, and these turned out to be true after later, the team announced he was going after the Las Vegas Grand Prix to be replaced by Mercedes Junior Frederick Vesti. Haas had a shock in 2026, being the only team not to pick up a single point and having an undrivable car which the drivers were constantly complaining about, which they struggled to fix through the year. They shut off development of last year's car early to put full focus on getting the new regulations right for this season and getting back towards the midfield. However, this doesn't look to be the case. It's looking like another long season for them. The 2027 Formula 1 calendar will have 16 races once again, starting here in Bahrain. Before we go to Australia and Japan, we then have our first sprint weekend of the season in Miami. We then head to Europe for the first time for the Monaco Grand Prix before we go to Canada. We then start the European leg in Austria for our second sprint weekend of the season. Then it's Silverstone, Spa, Monza, Baku. We then have back-to-back sprint weekends in America and Brazil. We then have a last European race in Portugal before we round the season out with hopefully a title decider under the lights of Las Vegas. That's testing done and dusted for 2027. The next time the cars hit the track will be racing in 2027, and it all kicks off here in Bahrain.